Hi, I'm Jason Lewis. I co-founded the Kinkonauts about 8 years ago, and I'm also currently the general manager, so lots of admin and finance stuff.
How long ago did you start doing improv?
A bit in high school,
Yeah.
drama class, right? So that's a lot of fun. Then dropped it for years, went back to Toronto for some work, took a second city class with Frank McNulty, that was brilliant. And then again, dropped it for years, and then when I ended up in Phoenix, about 13 or so years ago, I found a troupe in Phoenix run by a Mormon guy called Jesters, and so it was 100% PG, and that community treated us really, really well. And you know, it just went up from their kind of junior team to their main stage team over a couple of years.
So in all of that, why did you keep going back to improv? What about improv was like, oh yeah, I really want to keep doing this?
Wow. Yeah, it was just, it was so much fun, right? I had discovered it in high school. And when I was back in Toronto, I thought this is the opportunity to work with the pros. Why did I keep coming back to it? It was, yeah, in retrospect, I said, I think just because I understood for me, it was life-giving, right? Being on stage with other people, making stuff up was some of the happiest times I've had.
What is the most exciting part for you right now, as far as the company goes?
Honestly, seeing the community grow and seeing people grow within it. I get a ton of stage time out of this, and originally we designed it so we could give ourselves stage time doing what we loved. And there's always more opportunities for stage time, but I find I'm more interested in seeing other people on stage and organizing this community so that it can grow and so that other people's projects pop up.
Is that a natural thing for you to form community, or was there something when you started the Kinkonauts and started seeing it become bigger and all that kind of stuff, was there something missing in the Calgary community? Were you looking at other improv projects in Calgary going, oh, I want to do something different? Or is that just a natural state for you to do that?
No, usually I'm a participant, right? I'm a runner as well. I wanted to belong to the running club, but I didn't want to run it. But this, there was no structure there for the kind of long form improv we wanted to do. So Owen and Mandy and Lauren and I kind of built it ourselves. And then I looked at the second city model in Toronto with the classes, and I'm a facilitator and kind of a teacher at heart. So that was just something I really, really wanted to do. So it grew out of that, and then I kind of faded away when Lorena and I had Zoe, and I had to spend more time with my family. And then over the past 3 or 4 years, I've really enjoyed the development piece. And I think vis-a-vis the rest of Calgary, like obviously you have the Loose Moose, right, which is the big 800-pound moose in town, and they just have such a huge history, and they do things so well, and they're so big. And our style was different, and I think also our approach was different, so there was room for it. Had we tried to replicate the moose, we would have absolutely failed.
Mixtape, and for people who don't know what mixtape is, it's sort of a melange, giant melange of the different improv groups in town. Is that exciting for you? Do you love seeing those different groups come together? Why do you continue to do that one or have that one as part of the show?
It's well, part of our our mission is A, delight audiences, make people happy and pay their $10 to come to shows. B, develop improvisers, and C, build community. And when that opportunity came forward, that was more Owen doing that. It was a great way to integrate people from 4 or 5 different theaters. And so I've loved that idea from the beginning, and I loved how it evolved, especially with the musical underpinning artistically. And I was on stage with Jamie Northern and Andrew Fung a couple weeks ago, and just had a riot. And for me, it's a challenge kind of adapting my style to theirs and adapting their style to mine. So it's just a whole lot of fun, and everybody has a different sensibility, and I think the audience really appreciates that. With
2 of the 4 co-founders who aren't part of the Kinkonauts anymore, I mean, I'm sure they can come play, right, as they do. What, you and Owen seem to be a great pair and have different skill sets. How do you balance each other out in running the company and even on stage?
We spend a lot more time and energy and effort running the company than we do our on-stage relationship, because we've just got such a history on stage. I think partly we have very different, Owen's very passionate about the artistic direction and guests and growing the artistic style. And I'm much more passionate about developing improvisers and how we run this organization so that it grows and it doesn't need Owen and me to do everything all the time. And we've had great success at that. I'm remarkably lazy about these things. So we have different areas of focus. And you know, any organization is kind of the love child of its founders. Right? There's lots of things we don't do as an organization because neither Owen nor I nor any of the other folks leading, Nicole, Covey, Anne, are interested in doing those things. So we do what we want to get done.
You said you like developing the improvisers. How do you like to do that? Is it teaching the level 1 these days? Is it just getting them stage time? Is it how do you like to pursue that at this point?
I like working with intermediates. I think 3 or 4 years ago, the deal was that Owen would do most of the school stuff and I would run the adventure program. And you know, that was kind of our house team. So I loved developing them from kind of intermediate level, getting them to advanced, and doing that as part of an ensemble. So super passionate about that, and then went back to Stu last year and worked with them. And then the other piece is when people come up with ideas, encouraging them to follow those. So there's lots of things that danger prov. Never in a million years would I eat hot sauce on stage. It's just, and I love watching it, and I love that they do it.
Yeah.
So that's a way to develop people. Dom comes on and says, "I've got this great idea for danger prov," and I'm like, "Well, here's space. Here's how to organize some people," and then folks like that go, "Wow, oh, producing is a lot of work, and it's really rewarding." Kid prov. Marie runs Kid prov, which is kind of our monthly kids show, and she does a great job of it. She does it absolutely differently and better than I would. So it's great to see her grow as a producer and a director and attracting talent and organizing talent. Kendra runs our dojos, which are our Saturday drop-in classes. Yep. And it's been great seeing her evolve and wrangling teachers for that, creating a program, and turning it into a huge success.
So do you feel like you're in a good spot personally and sort of skill set wise to help the Kinkonauts sort of in this, I'm sure every theater goes through in this place of what are we doing, where are we going, we're getting really big, everyone loves us. How do you move forward? What's your sort of, in yourself, what do you hope for and what are you working on as far as that change goes?
There's 2 dimensions to that. One is I'm leaving town for a couple of years. So I'm going to Vancouver, my wife's going to school there, we'll be back in 2 years, and I'll be fairly connected for show weeks and stuff. And so that's something Owen and I have planned for years. We figured one of us would leave town at some point, and we want the Kinkonauts to carry on in Calgary after us. So we've organized, we've brought in more people to lead things, we've set projects up so people can do them independently of us and grow things and create enough momentum and create enough structure that these things can happen without us. So this is kind of a test of that, which is if Jason leaves, will things still happen? Absolutely, and quite possibly better. B, the second part to that is, I absolutely believe we are organized for growth. We, as I mentioned, there's kind of a circle of folks that take on different major projects. Me, Owen, Nicole, Anne, Covey, and now Stephen Kent's coming back. And each of us has different passions and areas. So it's not just Owen and me running everything. And in fact, we've done it so that other people organize things. So, and I'm quite proud of that.
Did you have a goal this year? Do you set a goal for your personal improv?
A couple of years ago, I realized, oh my gosh, everybody's getting better, and I could track people's improvements because I was coaching them or I'm watching them on stage every 5 weeks, and I was really excited by what people were doing. And I felt personally I was stalling. So there was a couple of things. One, I went down to Chicago for a week with the Annoyance Theater, where I'm just a student like everybody else, and McNapier and Susan Messing and all those folks give you great feedback. So that sparked a lot of growth, and that kept me out of a rut. And secondly, we organized our year around, we've got a whole bunch of kinds of shows we want to do that we've never done before, so let's get ready to do those. Shakespeare show, a musical, bringing Dave Morris from Paper Street Theater in to do an improvised Tarantino, an improvised John Hughes. So those efforts kept me practicing and kept me fresh and kept me coming to rehearsals. Like Shakespeare's, in some senses, incredibly difficult, right? Figuring out the language, iambic pentameter. So that's where most of my growth lately has come from.
What gets you excited about when you're watching improv? Like what you just go, damn, that's good, and I want to do it, or let's do more of that. What thing or person or what gets you excited?
I was really watching you and Isabel in the last Bell Jar.
Thanks.
Yeah, so for the first half I was getting quite nervous, and then you kind of resolved all of this tension in the scene so beautifully and so elegantly, and you had what, I think Covey rightly calls a well-earned fight. And it was really satisfying to watch, and I'm like, wow! And for both of you, as I've coached both of you, this has been kind of a crux of your improv, is dealing with conflict in scenes. And then seeing both of you together working hard at this and doing it so beautifully was really exciting. I was physically excited. I was like, yay! I think then there's just moments where you see improvisers kind of take a step change in their performance. For example, watching you and Kendra just make out on the side of the stage while the whole scene was going on, and you were just these ancillary characters really committing to making out, and it was funny and it was perfect and supportive and wild. So I really enjoyed that. And I guess the pattern I'm finding is that I'm really enjoying watching some of our female improvisers be much bigger and much more expressive on stage. And my original thought about that was, oh, let's set up Fatale, an all-women's group, maybe get it coached by a woman to do this. And that worked for a while, and then that project kind of had a natural end. But all of the work that was done in that project is flowing out into other places.
I love that, because that's an extension of the lab and the experiment. Do you believe in that? That sort of like failure's an opportunity, growth through just trying it the heck out?
Yeah.
Why?
It's the most efficient way to get to new stuff. And in my personal work as a facilitator, I work on design thinking. How do we help large organizations become more innovative? And at the heart of that is small little experiments where you try things, they might screw up, and then you evolve it and evolve it and evolve it until something emerges. So a couple of things. This lab space has been a space for that. Let's get new people together, let's get new kinds of themes and ideas. And then the Wednesday night experiment show, where we just mix up everybody and people get to try things in super low cost environments. And I've literally charted out on a matrix how innovative some of these projects are, right?
Wow.
Are they new ideas, or are they new combinations of people? And we've had everything from Josh doing clowning in a set to Marie interviewing people on stage and bringing them up, to just great combinations of folks.
Does anything disappoint you when you're watching improv, or like, is it a moment that a improver does something, or like, is there anything that disappoints you and you go, that could have been better, or do you not think that way?
It's not about particular choices. It's when somebody, I think about once every 2 show weeks, I'll be at the back beside Michael Harvey, who's doing text, and I'm pulling hair out or punching the wall, and he's just smiling at me and saying, it's going to be okay, Jason. And usually when it's somebody I really like doing something that I thought they had evolved out of.
Okay.
Right? Just falling back on an old habit. I'm like, I know you know better than this. You know better than this. But that happens pretty rarely. And then the beauty of improv, right, is the other folks come in and support.
How does improv inform your life personally, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually? Any of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the standard principle of yes and has made me much more positive as a person, and everybody from clients and family appreciates that. When I was in my 20s or teens or whatever, it was really cool to be cynical and sarcastic. And improv just helped me give that up, so that I could be delighted by other people's offerings and say yes to them. It makes me easier to be with for clients. I have a good sense of when tension can be released, or how to use humor without going over the line. And they're just like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm like, no, it's a joke about a puppy. But it served to break tension or connect people.
True. I remember we had a conversation years ago about beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors, because I've sort of come from that school of thought.
Right, yeah.
And I work around, Jason, we do an interview with me later. But, but you're a big believer of really, with what I remember, just behaviors. That if you can change or alter the behaviors, then can you tell me a bit about that philosophy and how that relates to improv?
Yeah.
If that works. Not to, you don't have to go big extended.
No, this is great, because this is our ongoing discussion, right? It's Freud versus Skinner.
Yeah.
My belief is that I can I can identify outward behaviors. So if somebody's on stage and they're fighting all the time, I can say, every time your partner does this, you do this. And now I can correct that behavior. And what's going on in your head is irrelevant. Just the next time that happens, I want you to lose the fight. Or I want you to do this very, very particular thing. And when they do that, and I think most stuff in improv is actually just a skill. That when this happens, do this. And as people get more skilled, they have more options for every given cue. But what they're really good at is getting kind of the right answer to that question. For example, the easiest thing in the world is to say to an improviser, oh, you should connect with your partner on stage. Well, how do you do that? Okay, make eye contact and create a name for their character. Now, I can talk for hours about connection's so important, find the person on stage, be with them, and all of this. Or I can say, look them in the eyes and make up a name for that character. And if that's not working, I'll say, repeat the last line they said. 3 super discrete skills that I can evaluate them on. And in 6 months, that'll become automatic for them, and they'll find other more elegant ways to connect. But to get them there, I need to be very particular about that skill.
Do you recognize, and does Owen recognize, hopefully your students do, I do, but do you recognize that the difference in teaching that you and Owen have makes well-rounded students, players? That's my view of it.
Right.
Do you see it?
Yeah, that's useful feedback.
So did you? Thanks, this is great. But did you see that? Do you have knowledge of that? Or you just, hey, we teach differently and that's great, so we're going to keep doing that?
And Owen and I absolutely, we're very conscious of our different approaches, and we've deliberately said, okay, it's time to hand these people off to you. Okay. It's time to hand them back to me. Or if they're really recalcitrant, we send them off to Kobe. So.
Great, now people are going to need a dictionary to watch this interview, but keep going.
Yeah. So, and Owen, just for lack of a better term, approaches it more artistically and more holistically than I do. And more about the ensemble and feeling and impulse. And I'm about, if this, then do this. I want to create habits in performers. So together, I think you're right. And also, people come to me for a while and go, oh, this is great. And then I find they're much more interested in what Owen says for 6 months. Okay. Or they're really intrigued by what Aaron Ranger is doing. We know that we have to create variety of teachers as well. So the result of that, hopefully, is some students find a particular style they like, and other students just pick up all kinds of kung fu and spiral upwards.
Do you want to? Do you think you'll be doing this till the last day of breath?
Yeah. I don't see why not, right? I think I will be forced out by the nature of the talent and the stage time. I'll get less and less stage time, which is great. And I know now that there's several people that are better improvisers than I, are more delightful to the audience, and I'm thrilled to have them on stage. And so I get to evolve into a different role. And I love growing the organization, and I love growing improvisers. So there is a boatload of work to be done in that area. And then, you get these little treats of, for example, at last experiment, Linnea invited me to go on stage with her for a 6-minute set. And I'm like, that'd be great. That's so much fun. So those things start to happen.
So you talked about yes and being sort of the basic rule and like that one and how it goes. Do you have a favorite rule, a favorite guideline that plays in your head a little bit, or do you know what I mean, that's in your head, and then out in life you're walking around the street going, oh, I love that rule, blah, blah, or just something that frees you on stage as far as a rule or guideline goes?
Yeah, for a while after I worked with Annoyance, I was all about the deal. Like, go on the stage with something and bring something to the stage. So I think I've internalized that now. What I actually do on stage is hopefully I'm paying attention and I'm just following whatever excites me. And often, you know, it's around a premise or fleshing out a premise. And then there was a moment in the Shakespeare show where, you know, I come out and I'm just a forest fairy and I happen to be wearing tights, and that's a lot of fun. And I found, my observation was, the more fun I was having, the more silliness I was enjoying, the more the audience was enjoying it. And that was fun. So just following the things that excite me more. Mm-hmm. And then also, yeah, it's just very much for me about playing with other people, whether it's a bit of teasing or pushing or listening or supporting. But I know well what everybody else on the main stage can do. So on rare occasions, I get to kind of set them up for that or prompt them for that.
Nice. Do you hope to pass on, or do you pass on, just in talking and live in life, these ideals to Zoe, your daughter?
Yeah, it's interesting. We celebrate any kind of joking, humor, odd behavior, silliness that she has. So yeah, that's very much a part of our relationship and how we play together. So there's lots of, and as she grows older, it gets more and more fun. And I've talked before about how, you know, young kids aren't really good at improv because play is the only time they're in control of the world.
True.
And then improv asks them to remove that control.
Yeah.
But now she's getting to a stage where wordplay is a lot of fun for her, and we just get to celebrate her jokes and her style. And she's got brilliant timing. Like, she can make a connection between a bum, 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 and when to say it when Lorraine and I are actually having a serious conversation. So she definitely surprises us.
What's your hope, dream, pie in the sky wish for the Kinkonauts Theater?
Yeah, I can't really describe an end state, but a lot like now, but more so.
Okay.
Right, just a bigger future. I think communities naturally cap themselves at a certain size, but we're not there yet. Okay. I would like to see, you know, more talented people doing more fun things that delight themselves in audiences. Like, I can't see a reason to change our trajectory at this point. We're very, you know, conservative administratively and financially, so we'll grow slowly, and as our audiences grow. Like, I want bigger audiences, and who doesn't, so.
Do you hope that it's similar to other things like Annoyance Theater, that people from, you know, Illinois come to Calgary, Alberta to take art classes?
I've never given that thought. I want more people going through more classes, and I've always thought of our audiences as, you know, there's got to be some kids in Medicine Hat or Red Deer or Three Hills that want to try this and just don't have opportunities in their towns, right? So either via outreach or them coming here, that would be great. So that kind of growth.
I had an audience member, I think it was in February, and I asked, oh, do you know anyone here? No, or we don't know anyone. And I said, oh, well, thanks for coming out. And they're like, we love you guys. We used to go to the Moose, but now we come to you. And I said, well, what was the difference? And they said, because you guys are grounded. What does that comment tell you, or does it make you happy? Is it what you were shooting for?
Yeah, it's a remarkably sophisticated thing.
It's a very sophisticated
for an audience
answer
member to say, right? So I think they're probably arts people by nature, right? Or they've done some of this and they know what's going on. And so when I hear the term grounded, it means, oh, okay, somewhere in our show there was some emotional reality or depth that our improvisers created, which is incredibly gratifying. And you know, long-form improv, any school you go to is going to say this has to be grounded in relationships and emotions and reality, and then you get to go to Crazy Town. And it's that contrast of sad and happy or normal and weird that we're always looking for, and that I think delights people. So I'm thrilled to hear that.
If you don't do improv for a while, do you miss it? Do you find that something's not working out for you?
Absolutely, right? And if it doesn't come out straight in the form of an improv performance, it comes out crooked, and I just start being weirder and weirder in everyday relationships.
Really?
And I can just sense that, okay, it's harder and harder to be serious in this very serious meeting, which requires seriousness because I haven't been on stage for a while. So I'm very conscious of that. And then I think the gift that improv's given me as a facilitator, you know, I'm in a training room, there's 20 to 30 managers, we're talking about how to have difficult conversations. What they say afterwards is, it wasn't a boring session, it was really exciting, you know your stuff technically, and it was a lot of fun, it was entertaining, we laughed. And I think that when you're demanding 8 hours of a busy manager's time, you've got to deliver some content and some humor and fun as well. And it's also what sets me apart from other very, very skilled facilitators that have their own approaches. And so, yeah, that helps me do that in the moment with clients.
Obviously you get something out of that because you keep doing it. I remember I did it with you, and it's probably one of the highlights of my life, in that I was like, damn, that was a mixture of great stuff. Do you feel like that? Do you shoot for that feeling each time you do it? Like, I've just helped some people.
Yeah. You know, in my facilitation work, half to 2/3 of the days I walk out at the end of the day high-fiving my partner and being really proud of what we did. And I honestly find that some of my most satisfying work, which is a combination of some theater, some business theory, teaching and facilitating, and other people's growth. And that's what makes me happiest. And I love being on stage, but I wouldn't commit to a career in entertaining, because it doesn't give me as much satisfaction as my corporate work, and you know, certainly at the rates as well. So
beautiful. Do you think everybody on the planet should take an improv class, and why?
Yeah, well, I'd love that for our revenue stream, developing our trainers. I think, yeah, it's easy to get evangelical about something you love, and I'm sure there's a guy interviewing about model trains right now that says everybody should try model trains for a day. So yeah, like an afternoon or a couple of weeks of improv, absolutely. It's joyful, and it's joyous, and it's fun, and it's connecting. And I think there's a lot of ways to do it too. We just did a session where we helped shy, you know, admittedly shy people with networking skills using improv. And they came out of it and they were like, yeah, this was really fun, but I really love connecting with people. And I think that's perhaps the most important thing, is the degree that improv can help people connect with other people. So I would say yes for that reason alone.
What do you hope, like from me, who's been there, I think, since from the very first class, absolutely. I feel like I'm 100, to the very newest person, what do you hope that those people are getting out of what you're doing and providing for them as a theater company?
I had a running coach, Dave Scott Thomas, who now coaches Olympic athletes and is one of the more famous distance running coaches in Canada. And he was always, you know, any monkey can write a training program, and any monkey can write a 10-week program to get a person better as an improviser. But what he cared about was, what kind of person are you, and what are you going to grow into? And I like everybody in our community. And there's, maybe it's me getting old, but all of these kind of more old-fashioned values start coming to play about, basics of honesty or humility or contribution to community or caring for others. And those are the people I find I enjoy most. And they're all ages. I love the variety of the community, people that have families, people that are still in school. We go as young as 18 and probably late 40s for some of us. What I hope they're getting out of it is, A, they're becoming a better improviser. Like, it is super important to me that people skill up.
Okay.
B, that they're enjoying some stage time. Like, we put a lot of effort into making sure that if you're coming here, we're going to find you a way to get on stage in a successful manner. So whether that's a lot of support, whether format or people or on a Wednesday night. Also, if you want to do something of your own, that you have enough structure to support you to do that, whether it's Giggle Duck doing shows in here, this interview program, Rob's podcasts, Like, we want to be a container for all sorts of experiments. And that we've given referrals to half a dozen or so folks to real world jobs where their contribution to the community has been relevant to their work experience. And we're pretty successful. Right? We're batting over 600 on referrals.
Nice.
And so that they're growing as people and that they're using improv in their careers, or they're kind of growing. And I love that there's a whole bunch of connections within the community that I don't know that much about. Oh, you two are friends? Oh, that's great. Ah, oh, you guys are doing something together. I never knew about that. This is beautiful. Let's celebrate it. And Sarah Palin used to make fun of Barack Obama for being a community organizer. And I didn't realize how valuable being a community organizer was until recently, where you see, like, this is life-changing for some members of our community. For myself, like, this turns people around, and sometimes, whatever it is, running, cooking, or improv, you need to get out and be with people and be in community. And it helps people survive sometimes very difficult circumstances. And I'm aware of that, and I know that it is profound, and I'm super happy about it. But artistically, I love that other people are bringing formats and ideas. And it was really important that we almost never do the same show twice. That I never wanted us, after a certain point, just to go up and do a long-form screw-around. Okay, we're going to do a 25-minute set, and a bunch of people in t-shirt and jeans.
So the push to doing Beauty, Love, Truth and Shakespeare
and changing mixtape, like, that's been amazing. And having you as the host, changing the format has contained and focused the zaniness and made it a much more watchable, much more interesting show.
Yeah, I love bringing in the other improvisers and their other styles, and I think that has been obviously teaching your students that exists. You guys have always been very aggressive in bringing other people in.
Yeah.
We're Canada's a small community as far as improv. Is your hope to bring in, we've brought in, I can't remember their name, just went out of my Paper Street Theater and all those guys. Go ahead and say what you're going to say. Yeah,
Shannon Manning founded the Magnet Theater in New York City, and she's come out and played with us 3 times. Louis Perlman's in New York City, does Story Pirates. He's one of the biggest musical improvisers out there. Paper Street Theater, who's doing some of the most exciting stuff in Canada with costumes and genre and dedication. Like, this is way beyond genre, like what they do. So they kind of bring all of their work out to us, and we get to benefit from it. Having Rapid Fire down, and they've helped us with our Shakespeare, they've helped us with their formats, and they've just been such gracious guests. And then working with everybody else in town, with Laura from Improv, Dirty Laundry. Nicole's a big part of our group. She's a big part of Dirty Laundry. And Andrew Fung has been super classy from the Moose and bringing Moosers out to mixtape.
Does that remain something that, it's hard to speak of the future, but is it your hope that you can just keep bringing in either the same people or new people to do a couple of things? Obviously is teach workshops and show, but also, as you said, that main stage show, and to create something new. Is that your hope that will just keep going in perpetuity?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah, and I think it's going to change, right? I think we've got too much talent. So, the handful of folks that get to do most of the core main stage work, we're going to have to split some things up because we've got more talented people doing more interesting things. And I would love for those shows to evolve. Something like a Shakespeare or a musical is something you can always get better at, and you can always have one of those.
Yes.
And it's always going to bring in audience, and it's going to be great. So once we master that, maybe it's time to hand it off to somebody else and go find something new creatively.
You talked about finding community and creating community. So improv, you have 2 communities, obviously. I'm sure you have more, but the running community and the improv community. Can you compare your improv style to your running style? Do they, behaviors, if you do one thing, it's how you do everything? Do they compare?
Wow. I have never thought of that. What I know about both of those hobbies is I research the heck out of them, and I'm always thinking about how to tweak and how to get better. So what I learned from running, and particularly that coach Dave Scott Thomas I mentioned, is that it's just a long-term evolution, right? You get more and more sophisticated about your craft. As a runner, I now know this workout's going to work for me, and this is the time in the cycle that I do it, or if I'm ready for a race or whatever. I'm super clear on that, and I'm just as clear in improv on what I need or what other folks need. You know, and I need to come from a more emotional place in improv, and I know that, and so I've always been working on that.
How do you mean you need to come from it? So how does...
you know, I was the standard goofy kid. I'm going to do a penis joke, and I still am. But every once in a while, I've realized there's massive value in being real or going internal and being more emotional. And that's why I love being in scenes with women and practicing with women and just doing real, grounded stuff. And then Stephen Kent as well, right? Like, the guy's a professional actor, so doing real, grounded stuff and then being silly little deer, again, it's a great contrast. But I don't think, yeah. I've met, there's lots of improvisers I see that, yeah, you were the goofy class clown kind of kid that just came up with jokes and gags, and now I'm going to have to break you and make you more emotional. So, people did it for me, so I return the favor.
Cool. I think I'm done.
Yeah, I tried making... I thought we'd get a funny answer out of that one. We got a really in-depth analyzed answer.
I know. Great at
if you were a runner as an improviser, who would you be?
If I was a runner as an improviser?
Yeah.
The first one that comes to mind is Seb Coe. Partly because of his discipline and his attention to the process. He was also coached by his father, who wrote a great book on distance running. So it's always about the training. He also had a great rivalry with Steve Ovett and Steve Cram in the early 80s in England, and I think that kind of enclave effect, where you get a lot of runners or a lot of improvisers around each other doing a lot of shows, trying a lot of new things, things are just going to bubble up. And whether it's me doing great stuff or somebody else in Calgary, it doesn't matter, because Calgary improv is getting better. Yeah, how do you like me now, Rob?
I can't get a funny answer.
I know.
Well, everything's super analyzed and well thought out. God damn it. We have no bumpers.
I know.
A lot of name drops, but no bumpers.
Okay, wait.